This is Half Sword, the medieval sword fighting game that is blowing up on Steam and social media. Half Sword is a fully physics based game, meaning there are no health bars. Each character is built of flesh, organ, and bone, which you can hack to absolute bits. This is one of the goriest games we have ever seen. Your blade is controlled 100% by how you move your mouse, which can lead to an incredible amount of creativity and control. The high skill stealing mixed with an insane amount of variety of gameplay interactions you have, and of course the pure carnage, has made it a huge hit with both casual and more sweaty gamers alike. The current Steam player numbers have been surpassing many AAA titles, and the game is currently only a playtest. In today's podcast, I was fortunate enough to have the Half Sword developers join me to talk about the game and answer many of the community's most pressing questions. Welcome to Knights of the Square Tablet. I have a special episode for you guys today, Strider the Champ, and I'm joined by a bunch of absolute madmen, the people behind the game blowing up over on Steam and social media, and that is Half Sword. Welcome, Ivan, Pierre, and Frank. How you guys doing?
Oh, thank you. All good, solid. Happy to be here.
Doing good. Thank you, man.
And probably the
doing great.
best dressed devs I've ever had on the live stream.
Come on.
I mean, you gotta love the Willie outfits, gentlemen.
That's the Willy hats.
Yeah. I didn't know these things were available. I feel underdressed right now.
Yeah, you can find them
Well,
here
they
and
are.
there.
They are.
There's a merch shop coming. There's a merch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Ooh.
maybe we're gonna have our own.
Yeah, we need to have
That's
like
for sure,
actual
something.
15th century drive that we can. But it's like, well, who will go around in a doublet in every day and buy potatoes?
Well, you guys do.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, judging by how well the game has done, I think there's a lot of people actually, because the numbers have been insane. Did you guys ever expect that you'd get this type of numbers with a playtest and social media?
No.
No, I mean, at some point we start expecting that, but when we started, of course, we couldn't imagine anything like that.
Yeah, it was kind of like a little bit of an experiment. Like we started with like posting a video, like maybe 2-3 videos on TikTok, and we were like, oh, this exploded. Didn't expect that. Although we tried also like a couple of different forums, like I don't know, 9gag. I posted 2 videos there, and yeah, it was a minor success, and then TikTok just.
Yeah, no, I mean, I see that on my own TikTok. It went absolutely nuts over the last month or two. There's been a few versions of the game, but it seems like this last playtest has really gone absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, the first time it went absolutely crazy was actually when we posted it first time on Steam. We didn't make a. I think we didn't even push the announcement for this, so it just magically in one day just became like top streamers started playing that. We didn't expect that at all. It was back in if you know the demo version where you run through the dark abyss, right? It was in that time when it blew up for first time like crazy, and then we posted the playtest last
In July.
summer. It
Yeah,
was,
July.
I think, or yeah, and it became even more popular. So
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I looked at the Steam numbers, and I was like, the current playtest gets over 4K concurrent, which is insane because that's better than some of the AAA games that have come out in the last 6 months.
Yeah, the CCU has been.
Well, it's not a big competition to be better than some of the AAA games. Some of the AAA games that came out.
Yeah, don't get me started on some of them.
But that was a surprise, man, because the playtest when Ivan and Frank said, this summer, because we started working in June. Games here join with forces with Half Sword game in June, and we had been talking since the beginning of the year, but we signed the contract, let's say in June, and then in July they were like, hey, by the way, we also have this playtest. They gave it to us, and then they were like, why don't we give it to players as well, because it's also fully playable. And the expectations were lower than the Abyss because we had to remove violence because it was a build for Tokyo Game Show, and we're like, okay, sure, let's give it to players. but we didn't expect much out of it, if we're honest.
It was crazier than that actually,
Yeah, well, I
because
think
we were planning to post the playtest only for the inner circle, but
Yeah.
we forgot to put the checkbox like make it invisible in Steam.
yeah.
And in first 10 seconds before we found this out, somebody in Discord channel found the version in 10 seconds
Yeah.
and made it
Oh no!
public.
Yeah.
And that's how we wound up here, huh? What
Yeah.
a good mistake.
It was someone
And
like
I think
refreshing
also
Steam
the
page.
first week, Ivan told me like I think we got hacked and that the game got hacked. He wrote me a message like
boy.
1 in the morning, and then I see like 3,000 people. And I was like in the game. It's like, what's going on? You know?
Oh no. Well,
Oops.
in general, it seems you guys have had a different approach to this stuff than a lot of other companies, and that you've just kind of like made the stuff and put it out there to the public. Because I know I've played an itch.io version a long time
boy,
ago. Then we had the Void. Yes. I
Yeah.
did rage quit the itch.io version my first time playing it with no mouse sensitivity slider. I was just like my blade was flying all over. I'm like, how the hell does anyone hit anything in here? But the playtest is what made me really fall in love with the game. So I'm glad you guys put that out. I think it's a testament to how many people like medieval sword fighting. Like to
Oh,
me, that was the real appeal there. So I think there's a lot of gamers like myself who kind of that
w-
resonates with.
We're very
that's
happy to hear that. We hear it actually quite often, and we're happy to hear it because the playtest version was a version that should have shown players that were not a gore game, but were actually a medieval fencing game, and then anything else. And turns out people are into that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think I've seen that feedback from people too, where they're like, okay, it's kind of funny, it's kind of cool with the void, but what's after that? Is there anything to it? And I think there's a lot of depth was shown in the playtest. And you've had some people really dive deep into the combat mechanics. And that's what I love about the game. I feel like it's the ultimate like sword simulator or sandbox where you could go as hard as you want and you can learn all the techniques. You can try to use HEMA techniques in there, or you could just flail around and have a great time. And I think that's why it appeals to so many people.
that's really fun. Really surprising to hear that. Like we put a lot of effort in finding references of like actually historical. We're going
Yeah.
really into like, okay, well, how was it in the late 15th century? Well, we're trying to bring,
Even used personal experience. Hema.
Oh man. Well, speaking of personal experience, all right. So how does someone like wake up one day and say, "This is the game I'm gonna make"? Like you just came up, we're gonna make a super gory sword fighting game where you can chop people's heads and arms off.
You want a long story or a short one?
Let's go with the medium length story, right?
The medium length. Okay, well, let's say I used to do Hema longsword in university when I was in university, and I didn't do games at all at that point. I was 2D animator, and then at some point I got extreme amount of free time, let's say, and I participated in several game jams before that, and at that time I decided that okay, it's time to make a dream game come true. I really wanted to make something that would be more representative of how it feels to fight with the sword in real life than most of existing games did at that point. So well, yeah, that's how it started. Oh well, actually, it was my student project when I studied in Japan in game dev school, and yeah,
Oh,
ever since I started working on that, my life just turned into working
He just does that
on
all the
that
time. He
game.
just makes the game all the time on the
that
subway in Tokyo, in the airplane, all the time, just working
Yeah,
all the time.
yeah. And
that's
and
crazy.
then
So
and
you
then
started as a student and now it's turned into like I guess maybe you should be teaching the class now, since you probably have the most successful project ever from that school.
well, the problem with that would be that if I go back to that school to study, to study, that should be all in Japanese, and my Japanese is not the
Not that good.
teacher level. Yeah,
Gotcha.
I won't be able to explain Unreal in Japanese probably. Yeah.
Oh man, were there any games? Because it seems like these physics-based games are starting to slowly creep up in popularity. There's a
Yeah.
few of them in development. Were there any games that kind of inspired you to say this is the system I'm going to go with the physics and all that?
Of course, it was Exanima. Actually, I'm gonna name two games. First one is obvious Exanima. Another one is probably some people will be surprised, but it's Trespasser, Jurassic Park game from 1996 or 98, I
Oh.
think. It's all physics based. You are fighting dinosaurs for first person view with like stuff you find on the ground. All the guns are physically simulated. It was very inspiring as well. But yeah, first place in this list of two goes to Exanima.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I've. It seems almost everyone universally loves Ex Anima. It's on my list of games I have to play. I've only heard of it recently, but it seems like it has a core cult following. And is that where the Void came from? Oh, the Void version of the game?
Void was actually it was
Well,
we created Void because I don't know how bad it sounds, but we weren't able to make a proper lighting in the game. So we just created infinite dark space without lighting.
So the hell with lighting.
Yeah, it was like,
Yeah.
we need a platform where we can showcase the mechanics. Hellish Court has a cool thing with, like, black
Yeah.
stuff around and just an arena.
Mhm.
And Frank was like, what if I
Yes,
do
I played that game quite a bit too.
Yeah, awesome game.
Yeah, great game.
Like, let's just spawn infinite floors and then see how that turns out. That
Yeah,
became
tiles. Just
It turned out
infinitely-
pretty well. People seem to enjoy it. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Surprising. Again, we were not expecting anyone to play this game that much at that point.
Yeah. No, well that segues perfectly into let's talk about the game in its current state a little bit. Why do you think it's resonated with people so well? Like it's insane how much fun people are having on this game.
Well, it became pretty obvious when we started playtesting ourselves, I guess, because the game is super fun.
Yeah, it is addictive, like, and also stress relieving somehow, especially like the abyss. That's when you start to see, okay, well, it feels good, and you run around. The mechanics are interesting and captivating, and and then we started thinking, okay, but what can we do more with this? Well, I mean, we can, everything changes. Like if you have a different weapon, your way of playing becomes different, and armor on top of that, well, then changes a lot of other stuff. And more of that you can see in the playtest, like where people start to, like, mastering the longsword, mastering bucklers and sword and stuff like that. So I think at that point we're like, all right, we have something interesting now. And how do we, bring forward? Because in the Abyss and the itch.io demo, we didn't showcase, like, okay, well, what is our intention with it? But now when we start to show, okay, well, we're going for more realistic 15th century thing. So this, okay.
Actually, I have something to add to this. I think Steam algorithms helped us a lot because I think even if we put the itch.io version on Steam back then, it could be maybe less successful, but still it would people would find out about that game. So Steam algorithms make miracles, I guess. And also, if we dig deeper into why people like the game, I think people really like when you can be creative in the game, and the gameplay process of House Swords is very creative because you create all the moves that you perform in the game yourself.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
to be honest, like we don't really know why. I mean, that's the whole true. Like, why is a game successful? I don't know. I mean, but one thing that was beneficial for our end, we made it accessible to people. Like, you can download it and try it out, since it's like a new mechanic that we worked on, and we wanted to see if people would enjoy it. It seems like they did. So
I
Yeah,
think
no.
people like physics.
That's the thing.
That's
It makes it very replayable. So, for instance, if when we saw the Abyss, and the itch.io, those two versions were created before we invested in the team and they went full time on the game. We had some experience with other games, like for instance, a game that is very popular. It was very popular like a year or two ago, which is called Power Wash Simulator. So when when we invited the guys in Stockholm, I told them, it still makes Ivan laugh, but I said, well, it's like Power Wash Simulator. Half so it's like Power Wash Simulator. And actually, they were like, well, it's a different type of game, but it's also addictive because there's satisfaction in every move you make in half sword. You make the moves, you make the combat, you make the decision making, how you're going to hold your sword, because the system allowed you that. So your brain is constantly trying to figure out what's the best course of action. But also for the audience, then if you play or I play or Ivan plays, then we're not going to have the same style because the system is so open. And what this generates for the brain is anticipation of movement. And that's extremely addictive. And this is why it's generating so much views on YouTube and on TikTok, and why people either play it or watch it, which is, equivalently important for a game. It needs to be fun to play, but it needs to be fun to be watched. And with Half Sword right now, there's a huge factor on the audience.
No, that was an awesome answer. I loved it. I've been for a while saying I think that physics is kind of the future of where games are going to go, and we're kind of in the early stages now where these games are coming out. So I come from a mostly chivalry and Mordhau background, but I was like, for the next chivalry game that comes out, they have to add some sort of physics into there. It doesn't have to be as extreme as Half Sword fully, but I was like, the amount of different interactions you can have in a game means every time you play, you can see something you've never seen before. And I think that's what keeps it so fresh in people's minds. You can play for 100 hours, and in 101 hours, you see something that's never happened, which I think that's so great.
And it's a lot of fun for us because honestly, we spend a lot of time watching people, like, or Discord. There's a channel just for memes, or internal Discord, and we watch memes all, like, I don't know, maybe 50 or 100 memes are made every day. And like I saw yesterday, I was going to bed and I saw one guy on Reddit has managed to dismember a willie by throwing a longsword. And then and then Willie's limping on one sword towards the guy. I was going to bed. This is the last thing I saw yesterday before going to bed. But I went to bed with a smile on my face, and I work with the guys on this game every day, and I'm still not tired of it. So it's just weird.
No, 100%. You get crazy interactions. I on stream the other day, I had everyone down and was taunting the almost dead willies and tripped on someone's golden dag and killed myself. So mistakes were made.
I really like the meme where, like, the enemy is about to die, and then the player throws the sword at him, and the dying one just grabs the sword.
Oh man. All right. So the combat mechanics obviously are starting to get pretty fleshed out. We just added kicking and stuff. Some of the people in the community wanted to know, are we kind of feature complete with the combat, or are we still going to go other places with it before early access and just kind of like flesh out the rest of the game? Like what's going to be the process here?
We're constantly improving, and with the combat, well, basically, the core element of combat is animation system, and we have generative animation system, and we have plans to overhaul it maybe one more time before early access.
Okay.
No promises. It might not work because we are still like seeing what sticks and what doesn't. So, but we're still improving all the time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, the AI has also developed from the first time I played it pretty significantly, from the itch version to where we're at now. I don't know if there were some like stealth upgrades in there, but it seems like the bots have gotten quite a little bit more creative and stuff, adding in kicks and grabs and
Yeah.
They're definitely blocking
Yeah,
stuff. Are we going to continue to see more AI improvements, or are you
of
guys
course,
happy
of
with the
course, of course.
difficulty?
AI, like if we draw a graph of AI development, so it starts here. We're somewhere here probably. Like all this part is not covered yet.
Oh, so so we're gonna get some pretty beastly willies apparently coming up.
Yeah, like
Yeah. There's stuff it's not public, but I get my ass kicked like after playing 2 minutes. There's like, let's say if I'm supposed to go 100%, I'm getting my ass kicked right now at 5%. Like I'm literally getting destroyed. So it's it's gonna be tough for players, I would say.
That's really cool to hear because I think that's also when you add the challenge and with the physics and all the crazy things you can do with the weapons. I think you're gonna really get addictive for people.
Yeah, physics you can do a
And,
lot with. We can play.
yeah, and that's for me. I found the challenges now. I've been trying to. I never did like Hema like Frank did, but I've been looking into stuff online and using the fighting styles that I find on Google in the game, and that's been kind of the fun part for me.
Cool.
So I think
yeah, don't worry. Me knowing a little bit of Hema doesn't help me
it
play the
doesn't
game
save
at
you from
all.
the willies.
I mean,
No.
I mean, yeah, there's tutorials. There's people who are making tutorials with the game right now. You know, like stances and positioning. I think there's a tutorial for kicking. So, um, honestly, it's cool. But it's still the video game. You know, there is a certain level of chaos that is just there and for players to enjoy. Of course, you know, the team is very focused on catering to, let's say, two type of players: the ones that are there for instantaneous goofy action, right? That's going to be Frank's chaotic side, and then there is also a much more, let's say, uh, it's Frank's side is serious, but Ivan has extreme discipline as far as you're not gonna see anything in Half Sword if it didn't exist by the 15th century. It's not gonna happen, and there's very thorough, deep, extensive, and compelling research of you know, coming from museums, coming from a lot of different places. From, hey, this existed back then, and they come up with some pretty weird shit. Honestly, sometimes I'm looking at what they're doing, like, well, this existed, let's put it in a game, and like, but what is it? There's a debate on how it was used back then, you know.
Yeah,
So there's two sides. There's the historically accurate, try hard, sweaty palms, Hema side in combats, and there's also the whole chaos part. So you should be having fun, you know, all the time while being constantly challenged.
yeah. I see this like, you know, they had some pretty wild stuff back in the late 15th century. You'd be surprised, like, what the heck is this? Like, okay, well, I mean, they seem to use it, and a lot of stuff was also like in a prototype stage that was much used, but it was still a, like, you know, a concept. So together with, like, you know, this focus on, like, you know, the historical part, together with like what is actually happened in the game. I mean, it kind of feeds itself, and it becomes like, I didn't expect this. Although it's still like, you know, we don't want to break any immersion. Like, you are in this late 15th century setting, and you know, there's not going to pop up a random dragon and say like, yeah, have you bought some weird yellow rubber? No, there is no yellow rubber. Stuff like that. So, but it goes hand in hand. So, like, you know, it works with the mechanics, and what we try to do is, like, since the mechanics are great, let's complement it in very much, you know, in creative ways that is making sense, that we don't need to do a lot of, like, you know, we need to explain this the lore out of this strange fantastical object. The lore is already there. We make sense of it because, yeah, late 15th century, cool prototype. Okay, well, let's see how it simulates. So those kind of things. And on top of that, okay, well, here is all the amazing equipment that was available during the time. The medieval period is very interesting. It's super cool. And
It's the best. It's the best.
yeah, boy.
Yeah, I'm all about that stuff. That's a great segue into talking about like what we're gonna see from the next year or so. Oh, Frank's got something. All right.
Before we go, I really wanted to correct myself about Hema because I have something important to add there. Because as I said that knowing Hema doesn't help me to play House Sword, it's only because I'm really bad at it.
You're really bad at
I'm
him.
not a sword fighter, but what I really like, playing House Sword is, especially from a first-person view, is that thought process when playing House Sword is pretty similar to what you have in your head when you actually fight with the sword. And I think, like, I'm very proud that we achieved that level of synchronization. You know.
Yeah, dude. Like, I
So
think
yeah.
I think that's the coolest thing. Like, really, people going in and looking at fighting books and stuff like that, and just oh, that's so fun to see. Because that's like oh, we are, as Frank said, like, it's not easy to achieve that. Like
No, no.
that's really
I've told people on stream who will be like, "Oh, it looks a little chaotic, a little crazy." I'm like, "This is probably a lot closer to what an actual medieval fight was like. It's not like chivalry where it's easy to block someone swinging a sword at full speed. Like, it's probably pretty hard. Like, so the parrying and stuff takes a lot of skill and is a little chaotic. And yeah, 100%.
and stepping on stuff. I mean, you step on
Yes.
something sharp, you're screwed.
Yeah, yeah, we found that out. We found that out. Tripping over a body, yeah, that stuff would happen. It's probably a little
That's
chaotic in
probably
there.
also the huge difference between, let's say, Mordau and Chivalry. And I played those games, thousands of hours as well. I think Steve Piggott, which is the founder of Torn Banner, was one of the first guys I talked in the industry, because that's the first game I ever signed, for a distribution deal. But when I started my career in gaming, so I know those games very well. But it's just the game feel is so different. The aim of the game is also very different. We're never going to be able to achieve battles of 32 against 32 like for instance Chivalry does, or Mordau does, those huge scale battles in multiplayer. But it's just that the aim is different. When you're engaged in combat, it's visceral, because you're supposed to kill somebody else in melee combat. And the way Half Sword translates that to control and the systems is why it's so attractive, or why it's so engaging to players, because you, with your keyboard and your mouse, you're actually fighting. It's not just
Mhm.
clicking and hitting. So I think this is a shift in how you control a sword in a video game. It's different. It's something new.
It's a lot
Zanima
different.
brought something, yeah, but I think Half Story Games is really bringing that to a new level, and this is why I think players are responding so positively so far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, there's definitely a barrier to entry with it, with the new style too. I think one of the questions I get on stream most is, well, how do you hit anything in the game? Because think everyone, their first experience, you load it up, you try to swing the sword, and your blade is flying in every single direction.
Yeah,
This is something that we will probably need to change until early access release, because uh, I believe that controls should be intuitively understandable for the game.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
as long as you know how, like, okay, well, if you click drag, it swings, and then you can kind of figure out the rest.
yeah.
So how do we communicate that to players? Because from the initial, like, when we were really not sure if like people would enjoy this, that's why we also made it readily available to just have a large test sample of, like, see what will happen. Um, it's a different way of playing, and people are not really used to it. And
No, not at all. Yeah.
yeah.
I was talking with my chat a little bit about this for the people who are struggling. I was like, it would be so cool. There's like sliders for everything. If there was a little bit of a mouse smoothness slider for the new players that will kind of straighten out your strikes a little bit, like kind of like an
Yeah.
aim assist. Because I don't know if you guys have seen those clips of Reddit of like someone standing over a knockdown body and just missing like 40 times in a row.
Sure.
Yeah,
We
that's
watched that all
exactly
day.
what
We've all been there.
that's exactly what we would probably want to fix with the combat updates and overhauls, so that now, just to explain to people who still cannot manage to hit anyone with their sword, the thing is that you need to swing your mouse with a certain speed, or otherwise you will just botch your hit. If you wiggle too fast, you can't do anything.
Yeah,
You need to, like, you need to do dedicated swings at certain directions. This should be more intuitively understandable to players, I think. And when you understand how it works, then then you can do whatever you want.
I mean,
Yeah.
an interesting thing is like you can see on some like the archaeological excavations of medieval battles, like they usually have like several cuts in the bones in roughly the same place. So I mean, maybe people weren't that accurate with their blows in the first place. So like these sort of things might have happened, and
I'm sure they did. Yeah.
then there's a lot of those kind of misunderstandings and misconceptions about the medieval period. It's like oh, for us as a modern understanding is completely oh that's weird, but it's a how did people walk back in the day? We don't really know. We know that they walked different, but exactly how we don't exactly know.
They were shorter.
They were
Yeah,
shorter.
they were a lot smaller. Yeah, a lot smaller.
And yeah, I mean, a lot of those things like is something they want to bring forward. So sometimes like the game might be this is weird. I mean, it has weird stuff, but it's also because the period was weird. So it's very different.
All right, let's segue into a little bit of what we can expect over the next year, or I think you guys alluded to the next multiple years. Apparently, there's a lot in the pipeline here coming up.
Oh boy.
But we've seen a few versions of the game, right? We've seen the itch version that's more of a combat arena. We've seen the void, which feels a little bit more like an ex anima type game, and then now we're at the playtest. A lot of people have been asking, what is the final version going to be? Is it going to be more of like a roguelite, like the void type thing, or are we going to see more of like the medieval sword fighting simulator?
We don't want to show all our cards at once
Of
now,
course
but
not, yeah.
you probably should be expecting. Imagine Exanima's arena, progression arena mode,
Mm-hmm.
something in that way, and something similar to that. You'll fight in tournaments, customize your equipment, go up in ranks, earn reputation, earn money, uh, that that kind of stuff.
Okay. Yeah, no, a lot of people were asking me about customization too. So we're gonna have a lot of options in choosing our armor and choosing our weapons.
Yeah, we're planning to have very in-depth customization for equipment. Uh, Probably I'm gonna stop at that, but yeah, expect in-depth customization
No, no,
options.
that is the perfect answer. Expect a lot.
Let me shed you like from an external standpoint. So because I'm being on the publishing side and not being actively in production, I have an external point of view on what the team is planning to do. This is also the justification. Oh, we have a dog attacking
Yeah,
you,
so
Ivan.
sorry.
No worries,
That's
man.
okay. That's okay.
There is really there is a roadmap that the team has, so they're very iterative, right? So as they propose a feature, the feature might come out differently when they're making it, because as they're making it, they're realizing that maybe it should be a little bit different than what was planned. But that's different that to have no plan. There is a huge plan, and this is why when I interact with the community, I'm saying, guys, what you're playing right now maybe is just 5 to 10% of the game, if even that, because the team plans to a certain amount of content for early access, which is going to give very, very deep longevity already to the game. But there is really a lot more plan as far as depth of system progression. There is, let's say, individuals. I'll leave it at that. There's individual you can interact with in the game, and each will have very, very different additions to what you may do in the game and how fast you may progress. Some maybe will be not helping you so much. So I'll leave it at that. But there is really huge amount of stuff that is planned. And I, for instance, when I saw what the team planned, I was coming from playing, over 3,000 hours of Escape from Tarkov. And as a Tarkov player, they each have their inspiration. But for me, what they planned as a Tarkov player was really talking to me. I was like, holy crap, this is... If you play Tarkov and you see what they plan, and if you have the full vision, then you're going to be like, holy crap. I mean, I can tell you that you will have your heart pumping at some point, because there will be high stakes to the decision you make, and losing a battle is going to suck, I'll leave it
That's
at that.
awesome to hear as someone who's spent probably way too much time in Escape from Tarkov.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. That's an awesome answer too, and I appreciate
That's
that.
what you say now, but when you
Yeah.
lose your character, that you
When I
spent
lose all my
weeks
stuff, I'm
on,
gonna be, I hate this
we're
game.
gonna
Screw these guys. Yeah,
The-
I think
the-
that's getting those emotional responses from people though, is I think what really keeps games around long term. Like it's less about. I feel like something like Tarkov is less about the gameplay, more about the emotions you feel, the highs and lows, right? As you're
Yeah.
shaking, as you're getting to extract, that you don't get hit in the head with the 10 GPUs or whatever you got in your bag.
Mm.
But speaking of early access, the people are curious if are we going to get something this year, possibly?
So this year is already 2025. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. I didn't want to. There have been rumors going around that looking like a summer type thing, but I didn't know if that was accurate since I get that from my chat.
Wait,
No, we published a roadmap, right?
don't we have the timeline
Yeah.
with the
It's in
porters
Discord, man. If
already
you look
posted?
in Discord,
Oh.
if you look in the announcements, there's the
let's see how
roadmap.
our timeline, the public timeline looks. The
Okay.
roadmap.
Okay. All right. So that is accurate then.
Yeah.
I'm unfortunately in so many freaking discords, it's impossible to keep up with every announcement. Okay,
No, yeah.
that's
So
great.
as far as timeline, it was what was discussed publicly. So obviously the team was very busy with Tokyo Game Show last year. The studio as well has switched, from being amateur to being a real studio, getting investment, working, let's say as a proper business now. The business of making Half Sword. And there was obviously a lot of work that was put into adding blood back, working on the playtest, etc., because there was two things happening. There was on one side they were making work for what players
It's going to be
the
interesting.
public
Let's say
builds,
that.
and there's also the
Yeah,
main
I mean,
production of the game,
we are a
which
very
is stuff,
small team,
basically,
but very
and a
good
lot of
team.
people
Shout
are
out to
asking,
Harold,
is the
House
Abyss
Games
coming
guys.
back? Is this going to come back?
Let's go.
Nothing is going
Love you.
anywhere.
So
The
what?
early access version you're going to get is a
Ah,
good
I mean, the
synthesis
guys
of
are
experiences
talents.
that players have
They're
had so far. And every time
really,
you
really
play
good team.
we
Like,
see
yeah, I mean,
the
it's really like
players
a team that
in the Edge version or
we
on the
would
Abyss
dream to
playtest.
be able to
There's
get
different
together
strategies and all the time
and
that's
work
input
together on this
for
project.
Hazard games.
That we really enjoy.
And for
It's
us,
like,
as a
I can't stress it
publisher, we
enough
were
how
like,
motivating it is for
when we started
I
working
can't
with
speak for
them,
everybody.
they were
I
like,
want to
"Oh,
wake
we're
up.
gonna
I want to
keep
do stuff for
playing,
House,
keep testing,
and
etc., etc." We're like, "Yeah, you should
this
do
is
it
super
because
cool.
look at how
But
well it's going." And
the way
it
we
was
work
definitely
is
the
like
right decision
we
because
want to focus on stuff
we
as much as
canceled
possible. Since we're a
last
small
minute
team,
the Steam Next
if we would
Fest,
spread out too
which was in
much on like
June,
super
and instead
wide
we're like,
features,
let's give them a playtest,
we would
and
not
then
be
we're
able
lo and
to
behold now we're almost at 4 million
get something
players. So
good.
it was a good decision. But
Just to be
people are
honest.
still gonna get stuff. They're not gonna get nearly
Oh boy,
as much as what
that's a
they will
scary
get
one.
with the early access version. But let's say that maybe they will get more stuff, before that happens. Maybe.
Maybe.
And we try to keep a pace with what we
Oh,
show
boy.
and how we give it to players. Let's say every 2-3 months, the team is like
Uh-huh.
they have advanced, they're confident, and they're like, okay, maybe we could give a little bit of something, But it works in parallel to making a main game, and this is really a complete new way of making a video game. I've been listed in 12 different video games, and this is the first time a studio does that. They're not launched, but they have already millions of players, so they have already the input, they're already testing, they're already getting feedback. So it's you can't go in a cave for 5 years and make a video game and then release it and then say, hey guys, that's my video game. Half Sword game is basically in the public domain for 5 to 10% of Half Sword, and that 5 to 10% is really shaping the remainder of those 95 to 90%, because they're like, look, they're really loving that feature, we should go for more of that. But as far as the Abyss, as far as the end game you're gonna get, the Abyss has never disappeared, trust me. It's there.
Very deep in the code.
Yeah, and I'm not sure people will enjoy the day they have to face darkness again, because those guys are really evil. So I can't say more. I can't
that
say
AI
I can't
you
say
guys
more.
were talking about earlier.
I can't say more. I'm sorry. I can't spoil anything.
Yeah. That's
But-
awesome.
How about
Best dressed devs in the industry for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a tricky one. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, 100%. That whole feature creep they talk about, right? But- Yeah. Now, Pierre did mention putting things in the game, so it looks like we're going to be getting a new weapon coming back, which is right. I think that's
Which
fully
one?
public leaked. The scythe, right?
Oh yeah, that's publicly
Well,
leaked. Yeah.
Scythe. Yeah, actually, in the version that we have now, it's pretty playable. We could just put it back in playtest now. But yeah, it will be in the game eventually. Um, but also answering the question, probably the previous question, and also this one is that probably shouldn't be expecting too much gameplay updates or content updates to free versions of the game until early access because
Mm-hmm.
we are now very focused on actually creating the final version of the game for early access, which uh, we will show it when we launch early access. So uh, yeah,
Yes.
don't expect too many of new weapons or new game modes. Until then, we need to focus on
Yep,
finalizing
very
the game. Yeah,
understandable. Now, I do have to ask.
yeah.
I've been asking the Shiv devs about this for a few years, but we heard the rumor in the creators chat that there's a little bit of work on some rope physics and stuff like that.
Oh,
Will we ever get something like a flail?
uh, yes. I think somebody asked Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 developer the same question, and they said maybe, and they didn't deliver flails in the end. So we're gonna answer
I've been waiting a
maybe.
long time for that flail.
We're gonna answer the same thing, but yeah, the tech is being developed. If it's stable enough for weapons, why not?
It's the same questions about bows and arrows and throwables and all that. It's the same. It makes sense for a game like Half Sword to have that. But if you take a look at how it is when you punch in Half Sword or how it is when you wield a sword, then the day you get a bow and an arrow, then you're gonna have a hard time aiming. It's gonna be hard as hell. And if the team comes up with the system where they're like, okay, I'm satisfied with this because this is a challenge, because it's going to be equally a challenge to shoot somebody in the head than it is to slice their head, then this is something that will make its way into the access version for sure. So there's definitely, they're working constantly on different layers of physics. They're working on many ways to challenge players outside of weapons right now. For instance, this is,
Oh,
I'm
boy.
sorry to always be so vague
That's
when I talk about
that's
it, but
funny.
it's just that everything is still in the NDA, and this is a surprise for players. But to put it mildly, they're thinking and they're iterating and creating many ways to hurt you right now, and this is gonna come in many shapes, in forms. That's the only thing I can say.
No, that's great. I don't think you guys have been vague at all. And before we wrap up, I will get tarred and feathered if I don't answer or ask this question because I get asked it a few hundred times every single stream. Uh, but will there ever be any type of form of multiplayer? Is it something that's in consideration or?
So do you want me to answer that? So we said we were, I was going to answer that one. So this is something that I read every day on Reddit. And what's so funny is I see Half Sword fans answer for us. So let me put it just that way. Half Sword game just became a studio 6 months ago, and they're incredibly hard at work on the early access version, which is not going to get online multiplayer. Like when the game releases into early access this year, we've been very clear that it's not going to get online multiplayer. As far as moving into other
Thank you for
formats, meaning
having
also
us.
consoles, meaning also VR, meaning also online multiplayer.
Yeah, size will be
Because the
least
question
of
that
your
people are asking is
problems.
PvP. Couch co-op for now works. Right now, we have that. We've played that. We've shown that in Tokyo. Online multiplayer is orders of magnitude more complex. Like, not more complex. It's orders of magnitude way harder. And I will just leave it at the fact that Half-Sword Game has contacts. We have contacts with extremely seasoned and experienced people, and that we're investigating and researching on that. But this is something that belongs to the studio. The decision belongs to the studio whether or not they're satisfied with what they're able to produce and create. And then if they want to give it to players,
you.
that's also up to them. That's the official answer. So now
No,
you guys
that was a great answer, and we're happy for the clarification there.
I can answer this with a little bit of story. Our tech artist asked ChatGPT, how can we make online multiplayer with physics on Unreal Engine 5? And ChatGPT answered that you should go and check out the game Half Sword for this functionality.
That's
So
crazy.
we need
Let's
to
go.
look inside ourselves, and if we find it in ourselves, maybe we can bring it to you.
That's absolutely amazing.
But just the investment to
Touch wood,
start,
man, touch wood.
really seriously putting resources to this is probably equivalent to the resources that are being put right now just to create an early access version. And also as far as workload, it would be very disruptive for the team. So we understand 100% the appeal. We understand 1,000% that if we do this and if we provide it to players, it would have the game potentially completely explode and break the internet. We are aware of this. We understand the appeal. We can make tournaments. We could have MMR. We could have rankings. We could have everything you want, right? But they're also pretty, discreet individuals. They're risk averse. We are risk averse as well, and we're like, if we go down that road, then we go with the best people we know in the industry that can help us. We have some contacts with those people, but we're really at the investigative stage where we're like, how much of a world of pain are we putting the studio, if it goes down that road, So, because again, if about 100,000 players, unique players are playing Half-Sword prototype right now, it's because the work they're getting is very polished. Of course, there's bugs, there's this and that, but they're having fun with it. And so the decision making here as far as multiplayer, if this is ever able to go, to play in players' hand, is it fun? Is the performance good? Et cetera, et cetera. And for now, we don't have the answer. That's just as easy as that. There's no answer for that.
No, that was great.
This was a very long no.
He had to let us down kind of slowly, right?
Yeah.
You got really.
We don't have a hard set in stone answer to that question yet.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Understandable.
however many times people ask us this, all we can say is that.
I know at Gamescom, we're going to Gamescom. We're gonna have a booth at Gamescom. I'm ready to answer for 4 days. That I don't know.
Yeah,
that we're
100%.
looking into it. That we're prototyping. We're this and that, but we don't know. It's just.
No, that's perfectly fine. And trust me, I get that with answering the same question hundreds of times. You should see my TikTok streams where I just repeatedly say game is named Half-Sword, multiplayer maybe.
Yeah. Probably, maybe, who knows? There's so much that is not public yet, who knows?
All right, awesome. All right, gents, as we start to wrap up here, I gotta thank you guys for coming on. It was great. I'm so glad that we were able to make the time differentials work out to get everyone here in an hour where everyone was alert and awake. I'm gonna put the links down to the Steam page in the description. All right, I want to thank you guys for coming on. Appreciate it so much. I thought it was an awesome episode, guys. Do you guys have anything you wanna say before we piece it out?
Yeah, size will be least of your problems.
Just like people love it. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
that's interesting to hear. I was always wondering, like, okay, well, I mean, the game is fun to play. Is it fun to watch?
It's
And
extremely watchable.
uh,
And I'll have because I'll when I stream on TikTok, I'll average like concurrently between like 300 to 500 viewers on there. So it's just people nonstop coming in who've never played the game and they wind up staying and be like, "What is it?" Downloading it. It's nuts.
cool.
Because
So
there's custom channels, Ivan. You know, people like there's Willies
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Armory. There is like on TikTok. There's like people who are like they're using the avatar of Willy and then creating channels because we
yeah.
noticed,
It's very
you know,
interesting.
guys with like they start with 99 followers. They make a half-star video, they'll get like 30,000 views. Even you know, no matter TikTok,
yeah,
YouTube, you
yeah,
know, and then they just
100%.
start building, you know, followers. So there is this snowball effect that the game creates, and the more you know, the more we're gonna add physics-based stuff, you know, props, other stuff, you know, the more it's gonna generate chaotic situations and this anticipation effect. Like, you know, imagine the day we add the bows and arrows, people are gonna learn to shoot. They're gonna look like apes, you know, trying to shoot an arrow, and
Yeah.
just that's gonna be fun, you know, just
A
the
hu-
same
a hundred
way.
percent.
With the something that we didn't talk about today is the fact that people enjoy the grabbing, you know, the grab.
Yeah. I wanted to
you know,
I wanted to ask if there's going to be a way to break the grabs. I know people were asking me about
Mm,
that, but
there is already is in the version that we have internally. I just made a mistake in some variables. That's why it doesn't work as it should in the version.
But yeah, people
public
enjoy
version.
that, you know. They grab Woody and then they start catching, and then for some reason the physics are gonna weird, and everybody is gonna go flying, you know. And then they fly against the wall, and then it's super violent, and they add music and they just have a good time, you know.
no, I'll do that stuff on purpose just because I know like the crazier it gets in the fight, like the more I can like use it for views. So like even sometimes you're winning a fight good and then you grab the person and start doing something crazy, everyone falls down. And it's like,
Exactly.
okay, now it's a clip.
My
Well,
dream mode is.
I forgot to ask it. Someone was
Go ahead.
asking this. It would be so cool. The people on Reddit were asking if there's ever going to be like an arena where you can throw people off the edge. Like
Oh, yeah.
I guess,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that could be hilarious.
There's elevation. They're working
Yeah.
on elevation.
Like just launch someone off like from like 20 feet and
You can
Yeah.
you can add this as a bonus to your video.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have walls, spikes on the floor, stuff like that.
amazing, amazing.
Yeah.
This is-
As I
that's-
said, like the late 15th century was fucked up. Like yeah. I don't know what I can
Yeah,
say
yeah,
without,
kicking people off elevation, watching them fall down like ragdoll, and then planting themselves in spikes.
It would be
People are gonna do.
amazing.
We know people are gonna
Yeah.
just the same way. You know, they're working on destruction of specific elements, and we know people are gonna spend their time, you know, just destroying shit and watching it destroy because it's satisfying. You know, so you know, you could spend 10 hours playing half sword, just throwing shit down and watching it get destroyed. Because
Yeah.
it's fun. You know. Just
That-
like
that's
it
what's
works like
great. You-
BMG, right? It's just like, you know, there's videos on TikTok of people throwing bottles down the stairs. I'm not shitting you.
I love
Ivan.
those videos,
It's-
man. I love
okay,
those
so
videos.
they throw bottles of Coke. They throw
Dude,
bottles of
that's
Coke.
what's gonna get us banned for it being brain rot. Come on, stop watching those.
Okay,
I'm
sorry.
trying to keep it. I'm trying to keep it legal here.
Have you seen the guy that like mixes paint together? Oh man, I can
Exactly.
watch
Oh
that.
my
Yeah, yeah,
god.
Oh,
Yeah, because it's so satisfying. So when you kick Willie and you see him wobble around and then fall and then because it screams as well, then people it's like that. It's like throwing a bottle and down the stairs and watching it break. You know, throw a
Or
Willie
mixing
off a
paint.
bridge. It was the same effect, dude. It's the same effect,
No,
but it's a video game. You know.